Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today is hopefully the last day for our final assembly on project YZ144. I think I got all the parts I need. There's really not a lot left to do, so let's go through and do it. And what are we gonna do today? We're gonna get the new petcock and the tank. And if you didn't see the state of the other one, look at my last video, the what happens when you leave ethanol fuel in your bike video. So new petcock, we're gonna get the decals and the graphics on. We're gonna put the tank and the shrouds back on. What else do we have to do? We gotta straighten out the front end once we get the bike off of there, or bike off of the lift. Gotta fill it up with fluids, obviously, and I'm not sure there's really a lot left other than to kick this thing over and see how it goes. So let's get started. All right, guys, so here's the current state of the fuel tank. This is very, very clean now. I washed it and I went over it with some plastic cleaner that I use, which, if you're interested, is this stuff. And I'm doing that in preparation to put on the decals. Now, I got these really cool decals from a company called 139 Designs. It's going to be a retro look. This is what the actual decal looks like. You can see it's perforated. And I guess there's two different ways you could put this on. You could put it on this way if you get lucky and leave all those little perforations. But what I decided to do, when you look at the other side, is I took all of those out. And I think that does two things. I like the way that it looks, number one, especially the white and the blue here. And then in addition to that, it just helps it adhere better. That's my opinion, but you'll see the way I put these on is with some soapy water, put it in, and then kind of squeegee out what's left and make sure it sticks really, really well. You can see this tank, after 20-something years, is scuffed up in places. This stuff gets covered, obviously, by the radiator shroud. And again, I'm going to ride the crap out of this bike. This is not a showpiece, right? This is going to be, effectively new condition woods bike, and I'm going to get a lot of life out of it. So let's go about putting the graphic on the other side of the tank. All right, so that took about, I'm going to say 15 minutes to pop all of those things out of there. There's the graphic again. I like the way the white and the blue look. And next thing is we're going to go ahead and put on the side cover graphics. I really like these. And again, same technique. The secret with those is to just take your time. I'll show you. But the beauty of it, I'm not sure what you guys can actually see. You start putting this together. That's going to be a pretty cool look. So let's get that other side cover graphic on. Okay, so with these, again, it's basically the same technique. Number one, you want to make sure your plastic is clean, and you can see here, mine's a little bit dull because I made sure I got all the old adhesive from that last set of graphics off of there. We use the same soapy water technique, and on the sides, I use the holes as a guide, right? Because you want to make sure you get all the holes lined up, and then you go over it and just take out any of the soapy water left underneath there. So first thing I'm going to do is just pop out all the holes, and we'll get this thing wet and we'll start putting it on. All right, so I've taken out the pieces of the decal that are going to go over where the holes are, and I'm going to use the holes to line it up and basically just start doing my thing. So one more time, a little bit of soapy water here. You could use a spray bottle. It isn't really necessary, but you do want to make sure you've got the ability to slide this stuff around. These are the areas where you really want to make sure that it's going to stick. So put a little bit of extra attention there. And now with that being done, this is simply a matter of squeegeeing. You can use an old credit card. You can just use your hands. And as you do that, you're going to see the water come running out. whatever direction you're going in. And you basically just keep doing this until you've got really good adhesion over the entire decal. That, did I scratch it already? That is going to look pretty cool. Now, in my last video, you saw me take apart this old petcock. And this thing, if you watch that video, is a train wreck. There's pieces of it rotted away. And I was a little disappointed. So I was thinking to myself, where am I going to get one of these that's actually rebuildable? Well, it turns out that Yamaha still sells the entire assembly. And this was like, believe it or not, this was $30, maybe $35 or $39. Brand new. Got the filter on it, got all the gaskets, all ready to go, absolutely perfect. And the beauty of that is, if you were to go in and buy the O-ring that goes behind here, if you were to buy this gasket, you know, just the parts to rebuild it, I bet you that would cost more than the petcock. So this is all set. In addition to this, I got the new felt washers that go with it. I'll find those here somewhere. In any case, I'm going to clean up the screws. I've got 2 of these new felt washers, and we're going to put this back on the bike, and we'll be good for another 20 years. And there you have it. After cleaning up those mounting surfaces, we've got the new petcock, and we are good to go. Let's get this tank. So if you watched the last video, you saw that I discovered way too late that I have the mounting, bushing, and special washer on one side, but didn't have it on the other. So it's like, great, I have to order that. And then of course, I also discovered way too late that I had the wrong mounting bolts. This is what was actually holding the tank on. You know, somebody's reasonable, probably trackside attempt at fixing that. Not bad, but not right. So I got the bushing, I got the little part, and I have now the right mounting bolts. So again, when I talk about this bike, while it might not be cosmetically perfect, it's going to be close. Mechanically, this thing is going to be as good as new. And there you have it, with the right mount on both sides of the tank. All right, here's something I likely have wrong. This is a fuel tank damper. When I ordered the missing parts for the gas tank, these are on the parts diagram. I didn't have them, so I said, all right, let me go ahead and order them. It's just a self-adhesive pad. I can't find any documentation in terms of where it goes. The parts diagram shows somewhere in this area. So I looked at my gas tank to see where it rubs, and I marked that on the frame on both sides, and I stuck this on here. Chances are that really isn't necessary. I can tell you I've had, I don't know, 4 YZ125s from this era, and I don't recall ever seeing those. They probably come off first time you power wash the bike, but I figured what the heck. So if anybody knows where they're really supposed to go, put a comment down below. All right, you gotta admit, that is starting to look cool. I've actually got the little rubber strap on there that has never been there. I like that hardware. Decals look spectacular. Oh, I gotta put the front number plate on. Here's the other side. We are really getting somewhere. So before I lower it, and that'll be in a state that on the ground that nobody's actually seen this bike for a long time, I'm gonna pull the plug and make sure I have spark after I redid everything. Should have done that already, but I didn't. And before I fuel it up and try to start it, I wanna make sure I've got spark. I've got some cool Yamaha decals I want to put on the fork guards. I'm going to fill it up with oil, then I'll lower it. We'll fill it up with antifreeze. Handlebars are still loose because I'm going to just straighten out the front end. It's a little bit tweaked. We'll put the number plate on. We'll do a nut and bolt check. All right, so I've got those decals now on the fork guards, which I think are really cool. And to show you my level of insanity, as I'm doing that, I look up underneath here and I see I've got some cheapo hardware holding on that front fender. And believe it or not, I actually ordered a while back the real hardware, so I'm going to replace it. Just as a little rant, since when does blue Loctite come in a red bottle? That's confusing. I should have left well enough alone, so one of those bolts broke off in there. I'm going to have to drill it out and maybe retap that hole, but I can't leave it. It would make me nuts. And so I drilled a hole in the middle of the bolt. I used a left-hand extractor bit to get it out of there. Of course, it came out in 3 pieces, and then I'm using a 6mm by 100 tap to just clean the threads up, which is what I should have done to begin with. That was a lot of work for something I really didn't have to do. I actually made a quick little short to show you how to do that if you want to check that out on my channel. So of course the broken bolt was one of the new ones. It felt tight going in, and like a knucklehead, I muscled it in and broke it. So since I'm crazy and I want to have 4 the same, I'm going to use 4 from the spec bolt kit. I really am happy with this stuff. Plus they got these cool washers with the little flange, which will work great on my Cherbis aftermarket fender. So let's put this thing on, and we're that much closer to being done. And while that was about an hour's worth of work I didn't need to do, now when I look underneath there, I know that I don't have anything broken and I've got some decent hardware. Makes me happy. All right, just about done. So front end aligned, number plate on. I had to reroute the front brake hose, which actually had a nick in the covering. I just electrical taped that. Had I noticed earlier, I would have replaced it. We've got coolant, we've got engine oil. I've done a nut and a bolt check. I have 2 things left to do. I've got a decal I'm gonna put on the back fender quick, and my throttle is sticky. Now the carburetor slide pops up and down cleanly. The cable is new, so I'm guessing there's something going on in the throttle end. I'm gonna take that apart and look at it quick. All right, here's to show you why I took that apart. Throttle was not snapping back. Without the guts, if I just pull the cable, it snaps back immediately. So this is just sticky and binding, and it's time to clean that up quick. Now, while I've had a lot of previous owner knucklehead stuff on this bike, this one I'm gonna have to take responsibility for. This is sticky on the inside, and no wonder it's sticking when I turn it. So I cleaned up the handlebar. I'm gonna clean this up. I put these grips on and I replaced that throttle cable. So whatever lube I used here has either deteriorated or was just no good to begin with. So let's clean that up. And this is why I'm glad my dentist gives me a new toothbrush every 6 months, because you end up with a whole bunch of old ones. Yeah, that you can use to clean things like this. I'm gonna take it out and shoot some water in it. It's amazing what just a little bit of effort will do. That's cool. Now I don't like these black bolts. Never noticed those. Let me see if I have some new ones to replace those with. And as you can see, sometimes it's the little things that make a big difference. That just looks a lot better than with those crappy painted bolts on there. All right, guys, I think we're ready for a moment of truth here. There's nothing left for me to do. I've got coolant in it. I've got oil in it. I just put fuel in it. 98 octane Sunoco ethanol-free race fuel. And I'm gonna roll her outside, open up that petcock, and kick it a couple of times and see what happens. Let's check it out. Looks pretty good in the sun, huh? So the bike looks fantastic, but I'm gonna have to owe you guys a ride video, as it's a little out of hand today. So what I've noticed, bike is a bit rich. Now I jetted it stock. They say with the 144 kit it pulls more fuel, so it's gonna run rich. It definitely feels rich off the bottom. I just dropped the Pilot from a stock 35 on this carburetor down to a 32.5. Feels better, but I can't ride it. So we'll be back with a ride video coming up soon. Thanks for watching.